in research, in particular in scientific research, but usually the return period is long of over 10 years. So how can we provide the right policies to bring J&G, Sanofi, AC, Novartis, BMS, JSK, and other top pharmaceuticals companies to come to Hong Kong? We are an international city. So there is a need for scientific research, and also research of people and so on. How do we bring the top talents of research, top research talents to Hong Kong? Let me first answer Dr. Lam's question. Thank you, President. Now, Dr. Lam agrees with what we're doing. He's also confirmed the progress we made. But then Dr. Lam is anxious that we should do more. That's also my thinking. Since this term of the government, we have picked up speed, but we need to accelerate our effort further. Now, I'd like to briefly respond on 2 points. One, attracting talents. Of course, we're attracting many mainland talents here because we're close to each other, and there's highly accessible transportation system. But then in the 18 months since we assumed office, or since the introduction of the policy, it's been just 18 months. Now, we talk about the talents we've brought to Hong Kong. In the past 18 months, based on the passports they hold, there are at least 47,000 of the talents hold foreign passports. Of course, we bring in many excellent talents from the mainland, but then there are also 47,000 talents holding foreign passports. So in 2 years' time, I think we'll have about 50,000 talents holding foreign passports. Why do I say that? Because Hong Kong is an international city. We enjoy two advantages. One, we have the strong backing of the country. Second, we are connected to the world. So that's why we bring in both overseas and mainland talents. The figure I gave you demonstrated that point. On scientific research, I agree we need to do well in that respect. There's mention of drug technology. Well, there are some overseas companies. Some of the top companies, AstraZeneca, for instance, from the UK. So there are top drug companies in Hong Kong. As you know, we bought their vaccines too during the COVID pandemic. So we need to continue with our effort, and I can see why you are anxious. And we need to work on several fronts. First, we need to give funding support. Secondly, we need to build our talent base. Thirdly, we need to have the premises and the space. And we also stress the importance of being internationalized. Now, we have Info Hong Kong. There are some 2,000 researchers coming from all over the world. They are doing research together. Thank you. Mr. Duncan Chiu. Chief Executive, developing new quality productive forces is very important for Hong Kong's I&T future. So how do we bring the cutting-edge technology companies to Hong Kong? That's very important. Now, there's mention of hydrogen, low-altitude economy, and life and science research. I know there are many companies that are strong in these areas, and but then say for low altitude companies, some of them want to go through Hong Kong to go global. As for life and science technology companies, some of them like to go into the mainland through Hong Kong. So we see, therefore, Hong Kong plays an important role as a super connector. There are many leading enterprises that recognize the advantage of Hong Kong. They want to use Hong Kong as a springboard to go into the mainland, or for mainland companies to go global. So we need to give support in two fronts. One is standards. For example, drug registration, there will be a breakthrough, and so we need to support that. And then for low altitude economy or hydrogen energy, well, members are very concerned about these issues as well. We have suggested ways to improve the policies. And then funding is important too. For many cutting-edge technological research, they're in the early stage of the research. They need funding support. I'm glad to see that there's a first investment by Hong Kong IC. And so can we be investing more? Because for technology companies, they may have limited funds. So how do we encourage private equity funds or other individuals to come to Hong Kong so we could bring more funds here and they will invest in local enterprises? Let me, hear another question before I give a response. Mr. Chen Siu-Hong. Thank you, President and Chief Executive. Now, the country stresses the importance of developing new quality productive forces. I'm glad to see the SAO government has identified the right way forward. Now, speeding up development such as low altitude economy or hydrogen energy economy that will help us to tap into the vast markets, for in particular low altitude economy. Shenzhen, Zhuhai, and other GMB mainland cities are developing well in this area, so Hong Kong must not lag behind. We must not just work on our own. Low altitude industrial trains are becoming established in GBA cities, and there is also a 10-year plan. So in the GBA, what role should Hong Kong play in terms of the low altitude economy? So our position is crucial here. So my question for the Chief Executive, does the government have any plan to step up collaboration with GBA cities so that we could complement each other's advantage? And then there should be proper delineation of roles, and that together we could build a low altitude economy for GBA, and then together we could go global. At the same time, we could lead Hong Kong to move towards high quality development, and this low altitude economy will be a new driving engine.
Allow me to reply to the two members. First, concerning collaboration with other mainland cities in the GBA. We have entered into a number of MOUs and agreements with other cities in areas like data usage, and also on collaborating in areas where we have complementary strengths in financial services, youth development, and so on. There are thematic collaborative framework which we have entered into. Concerning integration into the GBA, in my regular communication with other city leaders, we agree that we need to complement each other's strengths. We need to contribute our best and join forces. Now, I always use this metaphor. In some areas, we are running faster, and in some other areas, other cities are jumping higher. So we need not compete with each other. We can complement each other's strengths. That is the overarching principle of GBA collaboration. So where does our strength lie? Our talents and our international capital. What we lack is land. What we lack is labor force. We have a labor shortage. In different areas, there are different models of collaboration. Say, for example, manufacturing chain. Mainland cities have strengths in terms of availability of land and cheaper labor. Our strengths lie in our research capacity in the upstream. Now, with suitable collaboration, we can forge a comprehensive supply chain. Now, we have good strength in the upstream. We are trying to consolidate our strength in the middle stream. Other mainland cities have strength in the lower stream. We have strengths in international R&D. We have 5 top 100 universities. According to the newspaper reports today, we have 3 universities ranked amongst the top 100 most influential universities. Hong Kong, together with Shenzhen and Guangzhou, we rank number 2 in terms of our digital competitiveness. In terms of finance, capital is needed. I agree. Capital is also our strength. If you look at the Hong Kong Stock Exchange, there are lots of comparison with the stock markets in other places. Now, our capitalization value is much higher than others. In some instances, we are 10 times larger than them. We can attract hundreds of thousands more investors into our stock markets. Now, that would attract foreign capital. So it is very important to vitalize our stock exchange market. Now, about new quality productive forces, now we have just updated the listing rules 18C to allow pre-profits or even pre-revenue biotechnology companies to list on the main board. In terms of bond issuance, in the Asian region, we are the leader in terms of issuance of green bond. We have also issued tokenized bond recently. So these are areas which we are in the lead. In terms of asset management and also risk management, we are top-notch. So these are strengths and attractiveness. We also have extended reach to our ETFs. Another important area for growth is the RMB business in Hong Kong. We are the largest offshore RMB transaction hub. 80% of offshore RMB transactions take place in Hong Kong. We need to diversify our RMB products and business. And this is also how we can attract more capital. So I agree with Mr. Chiu that we need to expand the breadth and depth of our efforts in attracting capital. For other areas with potential, I look forward to hearing members' views. Mr. Shanghai Long, thank you, President. Chief Executive, in terms of the pursuit of the development of new quality productive forces, we need a group of companies or enterprises involving in the industry, and we need new entrepreneurs. We need to extend our reach in terms of competition for talents, and we need to combine the efforts with our strengths in our post-secondary institution sector. Now, for new immigrants, we need to identify the talents and the entrepreneurs among them. Now, for Type A talents, there are some 12,000 individuals earning more than $2.5 million per year. Now, this group of entrepreneurs can contribute to the development of new quality productive forces. Many of the government's policies focus on enhancing the supply chain from upstream to the lower stream. Now, most of our talents and capitals are actually entrepreneurs doing business in the lower stream, so we should focus on them more. So my question is, how will the chief executive coordinate the government in providing more help to new talents coming to Hong Kong? Especially, how can the FSTB and the CETB provide more facilitative measures for them? Now, this is my recommendation. Shenzhen designates the 1st of November as the Shenzhen Talents Day. Now, yesterday, the Hong Kong Investment Corporation Limited made the first batch of investments in the AI startup. Now, this is a milestone. How about we designate the 12th of June as a New Quality Entrepreneur Day? Chief Executive, I will answer the question first. We do need to attract a large number of talents. So I thank Mr. Shanghai Long for his recommendation. Now, Mr. Shanghai Long has formed a club for helping talents or entrepreneurs who came under the Top Talent Pass scheme. So I thank Mr. Shang Hailong for his work. We are widely trawling for talents, especially new quality entrepreneurs. First, it proves that our policy is a success, but we need to offer assistance to these newcomers. Now, in the policy address, I propose establishing the talent engage or talent unit for serving the talents. This is a one-stop platform for providing services to talents who came under various talent schemes in terms of finding residence, integration with the community, education, and so on. The services are very effective. Now, besides the office, we also have a virtual talent platform. Now, we have taken on board Mr. Shang Hailong's suggestion to provide job matching services for talents online. So these efforts are being made in an orderly manner, but we welcome any views and we will continue to improve our efforts. We are also organizing more workshops and seminars. The most important thing is to create a network for the talents. Now imagine if you are a new talent who came to Hong Kong. When the city is so foreign to you, it would go a long way if someone is there to help you. Dr. Lo Wai Kwok. Thank you, President. Chief Executive. In many sectors in Hong Kong, there is room for pursuing developments of new quality productive forces. Take the construction industry, for example. The government has been removing red tape to improve the speed in land creation and house building. The trade has been using MIC and other technologies and also using new materials in construction. But we need to look at the big picture to ensure that the supply chain is running smoothly. Now, in terms of planning, the frontline workers in the construction industry are very perplexed. The government is resuming brownfield sites en masse, and it took away the space for businesses like open storage for materials. It takes the land away from them. Now, without land, how can they continue their operation? The government should think about future industries, but you can't neglect the need of the existing industries. Otherwise, the ecosystem will collapse, and you can't achieve your goal of enhancing speed and quality. Now, there is a dedicated team under the Development Bureau to offer help to the affected brownfield site operators to find new land. But there is only so much they can do. Is there really enough land to accommodate these economic activities? So I think the chief executive should task the relevant officials to make more efforts in helping the brownfield site operators. It is an issue which would affect Hong Kong's future economic development. We need to find temporary sites for them to operate in the interim so that they can also chip in with the efforts. Now, brownfield sites are important for lots of operators. The Development Bureau has been doing a lot of research on this issue. Many brownfield site operators are making real contribution to our economy. Our principle of development is to relocate these brownfield site operators to multi-story industrial building. But we understand that some brownfield site operators have special needs. Now we need to give these operators a future. We will identify new sites for them in our planning process. And also, we are requesting property developers or land developers to set aside an area in their developments for brownfield site operators operation. Dr. Wendy Hong. Thank you, President. Chief Executive, my question is how we can utilize our position as an international financial center to support the development of new quality productive forces. Now, we are a superconnector where capital flows. But I think we are a bit out of touch. Most international financial institutions have business dealings with our stock market, but they don't have a local nexus. Yes, money is sloshing around on the platform, but they don't take roots in our economy. They don't serve our real economy. Say, for example, in 2018, when we revised the listing rules, we introduced the new 18A rule to allow pre-profit and pre-revenue biotechnology companies to list in Hong Kong. Very quickly, some 50 to 60 biotechnology companies listed in Hong Kong. We became the second largest fundraising center for biotechnology companies. However, only 2 of these companies have a real connection with our local economy. In other words, we became the leader in terms of fundraising for biotechnology companies, but our real economy is not benefited. My question is, will the Chief Executive consider redefining our position as an international financial center? It is important to serve overseas companies, but shouldn't we add another perspective to the regime that is ensuring that these companies are serving our local industries?
Thank you, Dr. Hong. Now, she mentions the financial center. This is very important for us. Now, for any international financial centers around the world, they serve different roles. First of all, they allow the free flow of capital. Otherwise, and the financial center never be international. So Hong Kong, of course, definitely we are an international financial center. You mentioned the flow of capital. Well, that's just natural development. I'm sure this happens in other international financial centers as well. But then I agree, we need to help local enterprises with fundraising. Now, we have the Oasis, and the Oasis is brought in 5 strategic enterprises. They were not in Hong Kong, but now they're in Hong Kong, and they bring their own capital. They also make there's also investment in these companies. So we worked out that to be about several tens of billions of dollars, and tens of thousands of jobs were created. And there must be various sources of funds. We have venture capital funds. We have private equity funds. Hong Kong is an asset management center. We are also a risk management center. So that's exactly why we have funds coming from different sources, and many of these funds are invested in Hong Kong. If we just focus on supporting local companies, well, then we lose sight of our position as an international financial center. The reason why Hong Kong is so successful in this respect is because we are highly internationalized as a financial center. So we may attract funds to Hong Kong, whether these funds go through the Hong Kong Exchange or are invested in other companies, or that's good. That's a source of capital. And Dr. Wendy Hong just mentioned the importance of capital sources. Now, of course, when companies come here, it's a form of a fund as well, because the company is here, then people may invest in it. And if they are talents, they will invest in Hong Kong, because it's not only that there's a real entity, because they have talent, so there's a higher chance of success. And so this is all about competitiveness. So we need diversity in that respect. So as an international financial center, that means we must be international in nature. We must open up our market to the world. But of course, at the same time, we do not lose sight of the need to give support to local companies. For example, yesterday, the Hong Kong Investment Corporation invested in a company that involved in forward-looking and strategic technology. It's about new quality productive sources too. Mr. Tang Piu. Well, the next 2 minutes, I'd like to talk about drug research. The FTU has proposed the use of national drugs in Hong Kong. That is the use of good drugs in Hong Kong. So I hope we share the same objective. Eventually, we will have good and cheap drugs for the benefit of the public. And more importantly, we want to move from secondary evaluation to primary evaluation. That means Hong Kong will have the capacity to research and produce and approve drugs in Hong Kong. Now, we may have the research capacity, but then we have a small population, and there is a question of cost, so we do not have enough testing capacity. That's why I suggest that among GBA cities there should be collaboration, and we should build a life science park that covers germ technology, life science, and health trials, and so on. The government should formulate policies, and there should be a requirement that a certain percentage of the researchers work in this park. This is to ensure there are enough job opportunities for our researchers. And also this park could be used as the base for overseas companies to come to go into the mainland, and then they could come to Hong Kong first, and then for the Hong Kong Center for Medical Products Regulation, it should be set up soon, and there should also be GMP service provision. So GBA drugs could go global. And so there will be a co-trial, there will be a co-research, trial registration of drugs and medical products. Thank you. President, thank you. Thank you for the question, Mr. Tang. Yes, I share the your way forward, but I think at the moment, we will have a better chance of success more quickly by leveraging our advantages in medical and health technology. And that is, we should develop Hong Kong into a clinical trial hub. Because Hong Kong has been doing well in this respect. And then in the loop, or Hetao, on the Shenzhen side soon, there will have the technology park that is both on the Hong Kong park and the Shenzhen park, and soon we will establish a clinical trial base there. And this space must work with both the mainland and other places in terms of clinical trial. And so that will be the base, and then we could expand further into the GBA. So there are good prospects. As I mentioned, we have advantage in clinical trial. We're also moving towards our own medical products registration regime with primary evaluation. If we build this clinical trial hub there, at least we can make use of the database of the 86 million population in the Greater Bay Area. So we have an advantage there, and this is the direction we should move in. I share with you, I share your vision, but I think more quickly we could first develop this clinical trial hub. As for certification and testing, I agree that's the right direction to go, but when we need to take up discussion with the mainland authorities, we'll continue our exchanges with them. Thank you. Mr. Michael Lee, thank you. Now, speeding up the development of new quality productive forces is a matter of urgency. The GBA has advantage in terms of research, talent, and capital. So Hong Kong should seize upon the opportunities. There should better road delineation with other cities in GBA, and then there will be strong growth impetus. Now, on new energy, zero carbon emission energy development is a national strategy. On the mainland, the hydrogen energy is rather mature. They already have complete industrial chain for production, storage, and so on. And then the public transport vehicles already using hydrogen energy in the mainland. Hydrogen power generation is also developing well. So we should promote the use of hydrogen in Hong Kong. And so there will be further development of hydrogen energy here. Under the 14th Five-Year Plan, Hong Kong is to be developed into an international I&T hub. So will the Chief Executive consider making good use of the Northern Metropolis? There may be sites that won't be developed soon. Maybe you could set up a temporary exhibition gallery there to show the achievements of the mainland on hydrogen energy development. And in the future, in the long run, should we have large exhibition centers to showcase certain exhibits that will need high ceiling clearance, and then people will come to see the development on the mainland and as well as in Hong Kong. If I could take a few more questions first. Ms. Elizabeth Court, thank you. Now, the research outcome must be applied to improve traditional industries. Low altitude economy will provide new growth impetus. Other cities on the mainland are developing low altitude economy, and the Guangdong provincial government has set up 6 working groups. Recently I went with some members to visit GBA. I actually tried the unmanned aircraft for tourism or sightseeing purpose. And then in terms of tourism and many other sectors, they are already using they are already developing low altitude economy. The regulatory regime also is being developed. Now, if we don't catch up, then we will lag behind in low altitude economy. But then low altitude economy straddles many different bureau and departments. Will you consider the same practice for setting up the working group of using hydrogen as fuel, and then you set up a working group that involves different departments, so there's coordination and there's provision of one-stop service, and then businesses in Hong Kong could then set up trial projects on using drones and so on in developing our low-altitude economy. I'd like to thank Mr. Lee and Ms. Kwok for speaking on 2 important subjects in relation to new quality productive forces. One is hydrogen energy, the other is a low-altitude economy. I quoted the country's government work report, and we need to develop new quality productive forces at a faster pace. New hydrogen energy, well, next Monday, the Environment and Ecology Bureau will be publishing the strategy on the development of hydrogen fuel. Strategy of hydrogen development in Hong Kong, that is. And, you know, we already have HFC bus on trial now, running on the street. We have a working group that approves the trial project. And you will also be seeing the launch of several other projects. For example, street washing vehicles. we have plans to launch a trial project on HFC street washing vehicles. Refuse collection vehicles and other rail or and other trams and so on. There will be trial projects too using hydrogen energy. The EB will publish the strategy of hydrogen development in Hong Kong, as I mentioned, and then we will look at other aspects of hydrogen fuel, for example, safety standards, because hydrogen is a flammable gas. So in terms of storage, maintenance and repair of HFC vehicles and so on, there may be a need to amend the gas safety ordinance and come up with code of practice and so on. And then on low altitude economy, definitely there is room for development here. At the same time, we face certain challenges. We could explore those together. Now, the low altitude economies, developing world on the mainland, actually they are at the forefront of the development of low altitude economy. And that's why our country is a strong technological country, and we're proud of that. Now, we are a part of the GBA, so how do we develop the low altitude economy together with other GBA cities? Now, there's a challenge we must first overcome, because we have many skyscrapers and high-rises. And if we talk about drones flying to different districts and areas, well, there is a dense population. And what about safety? What if there's an incident? There are so many people on the street and so many cars on the road. So I would like to listen to your views on that. Can I invite Ms. Quat to give us some more ideas before I talk about my own views on that?
Ms. Elizabeth Quat, concerning the safety of drone, we have been talking to our friends in the mainland. Now, for vehicles running on road, that's the 2D traffic. They may be prone to collision. However, in air, that is a 3D route. Now, in the mainland, there is a low altitude economy where parcels and goods are being delivered by drones. Now, for aircraft or airplane, when it sees and when the engines break down, they would fall. Now, for drones, they have several propellers. So even when one breaks down, they can still function. And many of them have parachutes. So even if they fall, they won't hurt the pedestrians. Now, to pursue long-term developments of the low-altitude economy, we need to develop a regulatory framework on low airspace flying. We need to conduct trial flights or pilot flights. Otherwise, we can't see for ourselves how the technology is being operated in reality. Now, there are a lot of application scenarios. I would like to make 3 suggestions today. First, cross-boundary passengers carrying helicopter service. Helicopter is also part of low-altitude economy. There should be a co-location system in the airport so that cross-boundary passengers can fly to the headquarters of multinational corporations in the GBA with helicopters. This can shorten the traveling time between Hong Kong's airports and other GBA cities. There should also be helipads at the Liantang BCP, and we can lower the charge for helicopter flying in the future. Now, low-altitude food delivery service. Now, usually, when you order food on platform, the food would be cold. Now, in the mainland, there is a very mature drone food delivery system, so we should learn from them. And the third suggestion is low-altitude tourism service. Now, there are some 30 locations in the GBA where there is drone sightseeing. Every trip costs 200 to 300 RMB, and you can enjoy the view for 10 minutes. It is very popular. Now we have geoparks, and we have the Yanqiaotong Marine Park and so on. And we have a lot of outlying islands which are very attractive, which are not fully utilized. So with low airspace manned or passenger carrying drones, we can develop low altitude sightseeing services for our outlying islands. Drones can be used as a means of transport between islands and also used for emergency services. Now, the point is, the drones will be flying on a pilot basis in less densely populated areas. Chief Executive, I thank Ms. Quartz for her recommendations. We share similar views. Now, if you look at our legislation, I think we need to adjust the laws accordingly. We need to study how we can facilitate the flying of drones. Now, when I talk about safety, it's not just when drones fall off from the skies. If drones or unmanned aircrafts are flying too slowly along flight routes, it would also cause danger to other aircrafts. Now, it involves maritime safety, flight routes of other civil aircrafts, and also signaling. Now, for drones or unmanned aircrafts, which is flying long distance, we have to ensure that they can continue to receive the signal. So when they are flying across the border to Shenzhen, how can we ensure that? We need to conduct research. Now, Hong Kong is a very densely populated area, and we have a lot of constraints in terms of flight routes. So we need to conduct pilot flights. My colleagues are already studying on various options. Now, another member also mentioned about the importance of cross-departmental collaboration. So I thank members for agreeing with me. We need coordination. Now, when we sought to establish the positions of deputy secretaries, some questioned whether the position was needed. Now, the questions raised just now prove that our direction was correct. It also highlights the importance of this position.
Part 1 ends here. The topic of Part 2 is promoting Chinese culture and the integrated development of culture and tourism. Members who wish to speak in this part, please press the request to speak button. Chief Secretary, please speak on Part 2. Thank you, President. The topic of Part 2 is promoting Chinese culture and the integrated development of culture and tourism. In April this year, President Xi Jinping published an article in the Qiushi Journal on strengthening the protection and inheritance of cultural heritage and protecting the fine traditional Chinese culture. It points out that we must strengthen support for protecting intangible cultural heritage and make sure they are passed on. We need to enhance cultural confidence, let more cultural relics and heritage come alive, and create a strong social atmosphere for inheriting Chinese civilization. We also need to carry out practical cooperation in museum exchanges. In April this year, the government set up the Chinese Culture Promotion Office to promote Chinese culture and history. To promote cultural exchanges and collaboration, the SCL held the Asia Cultural Cooperation Forum, Museum Summit, Hong Kong International Cultural Summit, etc. The Hong Kong Palace Museum has received over 2 million visitors. In Hong Kong, we have 480 intangible cultural heritage items, ICH items, that includes the Chang Chao Jiao Festival, Fire Dragon Dance, Cantonese opera, and so on. The government keeps up its effort in promoting the integration of culture and tourism. We launch various characteristic tourism projects on culture, heritage, creation, and on green tourism. They include the Design District, Hong Kong City in Time, and then we have the cultural and heritage sites local tour incentive scheme, characteristic local tourism incentive scheme, deeper into Hong Kong creative itinerary design competition, and so on. And the competition covers itineraries such as adventure in a closed area, marine exploration, pop culture, a story of a history, and Tong Lao and Hong Kong urban legends tour, and so on. The tourism board keeps up its innovative effort to bring together traditional culture, ICH, and tourism. For example, the drone show in May included elements of the flower plaque of the Cheung Chao Jiao Festival and giant Ping On Bun. And recently, of course, the drone show also featured the Dragon Boat Festival. So how can we further enhance our protection of ICH? How do we promote culture and in-depth tourism as well as characteristic tourism? How do we better integrate culture and tourism resources together? How do we realize the principle of shaping tourism with culture and promoting culture through tourism? And how do we promote tourism is everywhere in Hong Kong? I look forward to exchanges with members.
Mr. Gary Zhang, thank you. On promoting tourism, actually, transportation or traffic culture is also our unique characteristic. Now, a lot of traffic buffs in the GBA flock to Hong Kong to participate in the commencements of some of our transportation service. So this is an opportunity for us to enhance our cross-boundary rail services. Now, the Hongshui-Kiu-Qianhai Railway is progressing. Now, in the south, the rail will pass by Sunny Bay. I think this is a good opportunity to connect the rail with the airport express so that tourists from Dongguan and Shenzhen can come to Lantau Island via the airport express and the rail link. Now, this will give a boost to our tourism industry. Now, we have the airport city strategy. The airport itself is an important tourist destination. Now, I have done some homework, and I think the idea is very feasible. However, if we don't do advanced planning, it will be hard to find the room for realizing the idea. So I look forward to working with the chief executive together with my team of engineers. Mr. Kenneth Lau. Good morning, Chief Executive. Thank you, President. In the post-pandemic era, compared with the traditional traveling pattern, in-depth tourism in cities are much more popular. Now, Hong Kong has the rich cultural assets to provide an in-depth experience. Now, in March, a funding scheme was launched to provide funding for Klansmen Association for them to promote their hometown culture. Now, many areas in the new territories, for example, the Ancestral Hall in Pingshan, the Heritage Trail in Kam Tin, and also other villages, have much potential to become the vessel for integration of culture and tourism and promote Chinese culture. So will the governments provide more funding to the rural committees to promote rural in-depth tourism? Also, will the government conduct a mega publicity campaign to promote these rural attractions to visitors in the mainland and overseas? A cultural tourism corridor should be forged. Mr. Brave Chen. Thank you, President. I also thank the Chief Executive. Now, I agree with the Chief Executive's strategy. Now, Presidency that we need to speed up developing a strong tourism country and display the appeal of China as credible, appealing, and respectable. Now, there is the idea of tourism is everywhere in Hong Kong, and we need to turn popularity into prosperity. Now, we need to develop the five-color travel, combining culture and tourism. Now, we need to promote red tourism, where the theme is of the war of resistance, and we need to develop blue tourism, focusing on outlying islands, and also green tourism, focusing on country parks and marine parks, and then gold tourism focusing on jewelry and gold products. Now my question is, what about our relics and monuments, for example, Palace Museum and also heritage and monuments tourism? This is such a wide portfolio for just one bureau to handle. Now we need to ensure that tourism is everywhere in the government. We need to boost our economy and diversify our economic structure with tourism. So will the chief executive coordinate the efforts of the principal officials to formulate itineraries under the five-color tourism model? Chief executive. All three members mentioned how we can create value with tourism. So I really appreciate your genuine efforts. We share the same goal with the members. I agree that we need to leverage on our advantages in pursuing the development of tourism. We have immense strength in our airport. That goes without saying. For many years, our air cargo throughput ranked the first in the world. Now, from the Hong Kong airport, we can reach half of the airports within 5 hours' time. So how can we connect the airport with other railway networks? We need to conduct more study on the feasibility, but I do endorse the concept. So I appreciate Mr. Gary Zhang's efforts. My colleagues will continue with their research as well. So of course, it would be best if we can connect every nook together. Now, as mentioned by the other two members, we need to consolidate the various itineraries we have. Now, thanks for raising this question. The government has the main responsibility in this. But more importantly, the tourism industry, the community at large, the transportation service operators, and the travel agency need to work together. Now, the government is the screenwriter. We establish a platform for the actors to shine. The director or the screenwriter is working by themselves, but there is a strong cast on the stage. So the government will play our role in making plans, but we need to rely on every individual in society to turn popularity into prosperity. I'm a government official. I don't have the talents in running businesses. Private entrepreneurs are the ones who can run businesses well. So I agree that we have rich tourism resources in our rural areas. We need to design the suitable itineraries. Now, we have a lot of award-winning itineraries in the rural areas. And there is no lack of cultural itineraries in the urban areas, for example, those focusing on Chinese tenement buildings. Now, the efforts needs to be operators driven because they are the frontline service providers. But of course, the Tourism Bureau and the Tourism Commission and the government must play a role as well. So if there are any projects with potential, the government can consider injecting funding into them. In the new territories, there are a lot of attractive characteristics. Now, if we can establish a thematic tourism attraction based on, say, the ward village culture, and that would be great. And also we can have a thematic tourism attraction based on the Pun Choi feast. Now, of course, the government would be responsible for providing funding, but I think we need an all-hand-on-deck approach to perfect the idea. Now, where does our greatest strength lie in terms of promoting culture and arts? That is the West Kowloon Cultural District. It is a world-class infrastructure, and it is rich in contents. Now, if the WKCD can play a greater role in enhancing and enriching the cultural experience, that would be great. And a lot of IP products can be created. So that's how we can realize the vision of complementing tourism with culture and vice versa. Now, it is right to ask the government to do more. That is the right concept, but every stakeholder needs to join force as well.
多謝主席，特首早晨，夏寶龍。
Professor Chan Wing Kong. Good morning, Chief Executive Director Xia Baolong proposed the concept of tourism is everywhere in Hong Kong, so we should make full use of tourism resources here. Now, there have been criticisms that there is no creativity in our tourism attractions. Actually, we do have wealth of tourism resources. Recently, DAB proposed Chinese medicine tourism, so we include Chinese medicine as part of tourism projects. And Hong Kong is a hub, and also we are going to develop into a cruise terminal hub, and then Kai Tak Cruise Terminal has space, and then the Kai Tak Sports Park will be ready soon. So that means that we could build a center for experiencing Chinese medicine to promote well-being near the cruise terminal, and then we could build our we have also a century-old Chinese medicine brand here. So I want the Chief Executive you consider making good use of our Chinese medicine resources and promoting tourism in this respect. Thank you. Mr. Michael Tan. On new quality productive forces is a subject of great concern. I didn't get to speak. I hope there will be another opportunity for me to exchange our views on that. With new quality productive forces, that's about using the latest technology to boost productivity, and also is to promote a new technology. And then we should also include the green concept, green energy, clean energy, or electric vehicles. They are the new growth points of the economy. Now, we also have a new technology to promote environmental protection. We have plastic bottle recycling machines and other automated devices. Now, on the one hand, we're talking about new quality productive forces, but then on the other, when it comes to waste separation and food waste recycling, the government is still not doing a good job. So that's why there is so much misgiving about municipal solid waste charging among the public. People think that government tries to tax them for disposing waste, but then they don't understand the government's trying to encourage separation or reduction of waste at source. So if you do a good job with recycling, you don't even need to buy plastic bags. But then others who are lazy, they don't care, they just throw away their garbage, so they have to pay for the bags. Anyway, the government's now decided to shelve the municipal solid waste charging scheme indefinitely. I'm disappointed. I hope you'll reconsider a timetable. Maybe for the first year, it will be a grace period. The only warning letters will be issued. There won't be prosecution or penalty. But then you also give out free designated bags. Now, the food waste recycling device only takes up 2 parking spaces, but then very few housing estates have these devices. Mr. Michael Tan, please stop speaking. This part is on tourism. You said you didn't get a chance to speak on new quality productive forces, but then you have strayed so far off the topic. So please do follow the rules of the meeting. Chief Executive, well, can I get another question first? Mr. Kwok Wai Keung, on shaping tourism with culture and promoting culture through tourism, well, many have different views on that. Yesterday, we also talked about that. Now, Hong Kong is an East meets West international cultural exchange hub. So can we invite ICH craftsmen to come to Hong Kong? And so people don't have to travel to the mainland, and they will come in touch with our rich Chinese culture. And then there should also be more exhibitions on Chinese arts and culture in Hong Kong. At the same time, mainland compatriots may be drawn to Hong Kong too with these exhibitions. A good example is in Shanghai, there is a proposal on reading about architecture. That means they bring history and architecture or buildings together, and they have a QR code, say, on buildings, and then visitors could just scan the QR code and they'll learn about the history of the building and about its architecture features. So can Hong Kong consider the same? And tourism is an evolving process in a way. So we need to make it a culture for us to keep attracting visitors to Hong Kong. Tourism is everywhere in Hong Kong. It's more than just about creating tourist attractions. Nurturing talents locally is also important. So will the government formulate a manpower training system for culture and tourism? And will you be training more talents in higher institutions? And then we will then have a new model for training talents in culture and tourism. Because on the mainland, they also have a training base of a similar nature. Thank you. Chief Executive, 3 members have spoken on various subjects. They've also given us some suggestions. We are no longer talking about new quality productive forces here, but if I may say this, green economy is something we should develop too. We want to promote environmental protection. We want to provide sufficient recycling support measures. We want to educate the public and raise their green awareness. We can then better protect the environment. At the same time, we can develop the green economy. This is a national strategy. It is also our strategy. Because we hope that by 2050, there will be zero carbon emission in Hong Kong. So that means we need to promote that through a green economy. So all the relevant bureau and departments are working hard on that. About using different elements to promote the integration of culture and tourism. I agree, Chinese medicine is definitely an advantage we have. I've joined mainland tour groups. I've been to places where there are the Chinese doctor, medicine practitioners feeling my pulse and recommending toning medicine to me, toning medication to me, and so on. So the experience actually matters more than the actual shopping. Chinese medicine definitely is our advantage. We have buildings like the Lui Sang Chun is about Chinese medicine, is also about a historic building. So such kind of promotion complements each other. Now there is no law in the government to stop in Hong Kong to stop people from doing that, so there's no need to legislate for that. And it's about designing an itinerary and promoting it. There's mention of culture and creation, and there's mention of collaborating with the mainland, bringing ICH craftsmen delegations to Hong Kong. I agree we can do that. But then it reminds me, when I was in school, I read this poem about by Tao Yuanming about this paradise or haven we have, the Peach Blossom Spring poem, that is. Now, no one knew where this haven or Shangri-La is. No one could reach there. Now, we have Chinese medicine, we have blue-green tourism, we have all sorts of tourism. It's all about promotion and publicity. Then people know Hong Kong is a haven, but Hong Kong is not the peach blossom spring, because that's Shangri-La, that no one knows where it is. But instead, we need to build Hong Kong into a haven like that, and then we need to tell people the treasure we have here, the havens we have here. And then all of us need to work together to design these different itineraries to bring people to the different Shangri-Las that we have here in Hong Kong. You know, our colleagues are not as bright as you, otherwise they would have been leaders in the tourism sector. But anyway, we give policy support, we provide a platform, we help with promotion. Of course, in our organization, we have the Commission for Tourism, we have the Tourism Board to do the work. What I'm saying is we all need to chip in. So all the ideas you mentioned are good. I support all of them. I will give you funding for all these ideas. So please work together and move in towards the same goal. Definitely then we will do a great job. Thank you. And Mr. Tang Fei. Other members made many good suggestions. I think it's about opening up our door to welcome visitors. Now I think we need to consider the visitor sources that we've overlooked, primary and secondary school students from mainland. You know, study tours, big business for the tourism sector. We all know that. But have we ever thought about bringing mainland teachers and students to Hong Kong for exchanges? At the end of 2016, the Ministry of Education and other other 10 ministries have already published an opinion on study tours for primary and secondary school students. And then there's also a guideline on primary and secondary students going overseas for study tour that was published in 2014. But unfortunately, overseas did mean overseas. They didn't cover Hong Kong. So, but then we could link up with different international exchange associations of different cities and provinces, and then we could bring primary and secondary students from mainland to Hong Kong, because we have 480 ICH items. We have an East meets West Center. We have a red tourism spots here, so there's plenty of room for development in this respect. I hope the Chief Executive will consider it. Mr. Perry Yu, thank you. Chief Executive, thank you for attaching so much importance to tourism development. I hope tourism will be considered a strategic industry. By that, we know that tourism is more than about economic development. It's also about cultural exchanges, building friendship. It's also an important bridge for fostering foreign relations with other places and countries. So it's a strategic industry. In this council and in the committee as a whole, there's been much discussion about tourist attractions and support facilities and so on. This is important. We need more attractions. We need more support facilities. But then we all realize the importance of these issues. But then what about the tourism trade itself? Now the trade is responsible for integrating culture with tourism. We turn ideas into actual itineraries. We link up different tourist attractions and facilities, so visitors will stay longer. Hotels, of course, are important because they have come into close contact with visitors. Visitors receive tourism information and so on from hotels often. So for this whole industry chain, I would say is not well connected. Now, about developing in-depth tourism is about turning individual visitors into revenue, in a sense. So what sort of policies does the government have in supporting the trade to develop in this direction. I'd like to thank Mr. Tang and Mr. Yu for their views. Mr. Yu talks about a much broader issue at a macro level. So can I ask you, where do you want the government to come in? What do you want us to do in concrete terms? You know, you have years of experience and you have the perspectives of the trade. So where should the government come in? Mr. Perry-Yu, please. Chief Executive, thank you. For the tourism trade, most importantly, we want there to be better linking up. By that, there are two aspects. First of all, the government needs to have policies to encourage different sectors and trades to be linked up. And the second aspect is that within the trade, we need to have better linking up in terms of our market operations. For example, we're developing the mega events economy. We're promoting many mega events. Now, mega events are funded by government, but then and with mega events, can we have the organizers working with the trade so we could provide package of products to enhance the value of mega events? That's one thing. Another point is we often overlook the operation of tour groups. Now, most incoming visitors come on an individual basis. There are relatively few tour groups. They account for just a few % of all the visitors. How do we turn individual visitors into tour groups of in-depth tourism? So how do we promote our local tours? Because we've worked so hard to come up with these tourism products. How do we promote them to visitors? There's a need for policy guidance and support in this respect. And then I think you've all heard me mentioning this recently, two-way traffic in a sense. Now, of course, we all take very seriously incoming visitors, but what about outbound visitors? We often overlook that. By two-way traffic, that means we attach importance both to inbound tourist visitors and outbound visitors. Now, there are new cities included in the individual visit scheme. How do we promote two-way visits? So the governments of these places and the sector must all work together so that we can create more opportunities for two-way visits. Thank you. Chief Executive, I would like to thank Mr. Tang and Mr. Yu for their views, because these are the pragmatic ideas I like to learn about. I'm sure we all share the same objectives, the same philosophy. We all know about the slogans, but then how do we actually get things done? That's something I always ask of my colleagues, and I thank members for your views for that. Bringing mainland study tours to Hong Kong. I certainly support the idea, Mr. Tang, because this is a win-win for all. It's about exchanges, and then students will learn more about Hong Kong. They may come here as talents, or they may invest here. They may come to Hong Kong to work. So definitely, such exchanges are good. Of course, we already have the sister school arrangement. The last I read, there are about 900 schools or so with sister schools on the mainland, and usually one school may link up with 3 other schools on the mainland. So there's definitely room for development. I think we should actually promote study tours from the mainland to Hong Kong. Mr. Yeo, I thank you for your views because you have so much experience in tourism. Of course, everyone in the trade is professional and committed. It's about linking up different sectors. It's about organization and bringing people together. Also, it's about helping with promotion and publicity. Again, it's about the peach blossom forest, the woods. we don't want to keep it from others. We want everyone to learn where this Shangri-La is. And then you mentioned about turning individual visitors into tour group members. I'm sure you have a successful experience with that. Now, my own experience, I went to an island for holiday. I was an individual visitor, but then, of course, the hotel would organize fishing tours and diving tours and so on. So that means I will join a group. Now I know what you're trying to say, but I don't have as much knowledge as you, of course, about this subject. So we could have further exchanges. That's why we have this interactive exchange session. There are so many issues that need to resolve. We can work on them one by one. And more importantly, with this session, we could bring public attention to different issues. That's why I am really grateful to you for all your views given today. I hope we will eventually forge a consensus. Everyone then will be creative and everyone will work together to get things done. More importantly, you mentioned two-way visits. That's also important. I'm all for that. How do we, promote two-way visits and exchanges? I think it's important. And how do we work with different governments? And could we drop any plans to promote tourist exchange in both directions? Thank you for your views. Last, Mr. Ronick Chen. Thank you, Chief Executive. I tried press the button for the topic one, but I won't go back on the issue. Otherwise, the Chief Executive will say that I've shifted from the subject. Now, many mainland cities have promoted immersive tourism project. For example, in Xinjiang, there is this night museum tour, and Xi'an also have an immersive streetscape tour, and so on. So I'm sure many of us have been on this tour. So these days, traveling is all about gaining first-hand experience in an immersive environment. So these in this in-depth tourism projects, and they actually make the travel more interesting. So we are the Pearl of the Orient. We have so many different characteristics. Can we have immersive performing programs? For example, Li Jiang Impression, that's a well-known director that was invited to put together the program. So the show was staged at Snow Dragon Mountain, that's 3,050 meters high. Now, in Hong Kong, we don't have this altitude, but perhaps, say, with a Cantonese opera, ethnic dancers, or the 480 Ice Age items, we could invite a well-known director to put them together into a show, a performance for visitors. And then there will be a brand new travel experience for Hong Kong. And then people will always remember the Impression Hong Kong program. Now, at YS Kowloon Cultural District, there are venues and performing for exhibition and performance. So I think we could stage the show there. Thank you.
Thank you, President. Since I've come into office, we have been exploring this issue as well. Some parties propose similar concepts to the government. As Mr. Ronick Chen said, sometimes venue is an issue. Now, to me personally, the Victoria Harbour is the most attractive tourism resource we have. When it comes to immersive experience, now we can try the concept of putting up a spectacular show on the Victoria Harbour with immersive technology, but technological feasibility is another matter. So of course I will listen to members in terms of new ideas, but we have to overcome the challenges. Now, the West Kowloon Cultural District is a good location. Now, when it comes to immersive experience, we need to ensure that it leaves a memory in the visitor's mind that make the trip memorable. So I would like to seek Mr. Ronnie Chan's suggestion on this. Well, I'm not an expert, but the peak is what comes to my mind. If there is an immersive theater on the peak, that would be great. Now, how about we seek suggestions from Mr. Kenneth Fogg and Mr. Duncan Chiu? I think they are the experts, and they will be able to give you a lot of good ideas. President, I thank Mr. Ronnie Chan for his answer. We need to take some deep thoughts in this. Now, this is a very good idea. Now, there are some landmark tourist attractions which are must-see attractions in Hong Kong. So maybe we can come up with some signature performance which are representative of Hong Kong. So it must be a representative performance with the highest quality. And we need to pick your brain to achieve that. I think the private sector would be much more flexible in coming up with new ideas compared with the government, but we do share the same goal. So we are already working with some creative parties. So this is how we formulate policy. It's like pregnancy. Now, before the child is ready to be birthed, the mother would usually stay at home, nurturing the fetus. So let's work together, and we look forward to working with you. Chief Executive, please deliver a concluding speech. Thank you, President. As mentioned in my opening remarks, today's interaction explored the role that Hong Kong should play in the country's development framework. I thank members for their impassioned speeches and questions. There is much wisdom in the suggestions. The government attaches importance to all views, whether they are supportive or opposing views, and whether they are encouragement or criticism. Many of our policy measures were formulated and implemented after listening to the public's views and after due consideration. For example, there were views that a museum of the War of Resistance should be established to educate the public that the hard-earned peace they enjoy today is built on the sufferings of Hong Kong and the country, thus encouraging patriotism. That's why in the 2023 policy address, I proposed establishing the Hong Kong Museum on the War of Resistance and Coastal Defense. We attach importance to the welfare of grassroots workers, and there were views that the review of the statutory minimum wage should be conducted annually instead of biannually. That's why we implemented the annual review mechanism. We have also introduced the increase-only formula to protect the welfare of employees while giving consideration to the affordability of employers. We have heard concerns about the continuously declining birth rates in Hong Kong, and they asked the government to interfere. That's why we have broken away from the non-intervention policy and launched a combination of pro-birth policies, including implementing the families with newborns allocation priority and flag selection priority schemes, enhancing tax allowances for parents, enhancing child care services, and implementing the newborn baby bonus. Hong Kong has implemented the principle of patriots administering Hong Kong. With its constitutional status, the Legislative Council is uniquely positioned to demonstrate the exemplary values of patriots administering Hong Kong. To achieve that, we need council members of a high caliber to work together with the governments in value creation and governance in a highly effective manner. This is no mean feat. The government's policies affect every member of the public. The burden on my shoulders is heavy. That's why I welcome different views and I attach importance to exchanges. I pay close attention to the debates in the Council. In order to demonstrate the exemplary values of patriots administering Hong Kong, we need to be pragmatic and really deliver for Hong Kongers. Unlike parliaments in Western countries, which are obsessed with political grandstanding, we often have different views. It is only normal to have different opinions, and more often than not, it is a good thing. Let us reconcile these differences through discourse and debate. However, to demonstrate the exemplary value of patriots administering Hong Kong, we must focus on seeking common grounds in the process of constructive debate. We can't have the I win, you lose mindset. We need to find the greatest common factor and seek the greatest benefits for the public and bring Hong Kong to higher heights. Thank you, President. The Chief Executive's interactive exchange question and answer session ends. The Chief Executive will now leave the chamber. Will members please stand up? The Chief Executive's interactive exchange question and answer sessions ends.
Ms. Lam So Wai, you may now speak on the amendments. Thank you, President. I thank Ms. Lin Kwok, Mr. Chen Pui Leung, and another member for moving the amendments. We have to enhance the service model for psychiatric services. We need to enhance case management program so that we can have case managers follow up on